Welcome to NeuroMotion Lab, where we explore the fascinating intersection of neuroscience and athletic performance. I'm Fabio Guida, physical therapist, trainer, mental performance coach, and I'm passionate about helping athletes like you to reach your full potential. Hello, and welcome to NeuroMotion Lab podcast, the space where we explore how the body and the mind work together to achieve maximum performance and well-being. You know when you have a really good talk with someone and afterward you feel like something inside just clicks? I feel suddenly your mind feels clear, your energy lighter, and everything seems to make more sense. Well, that is not just emotional, it's neurological. Your brain literally changes when you connect with another person. And it's not a metaphor. There is a solid and recent scientific evidence showing that human interactions are one of the best exercises to keep the brain healthy, young, and functional. Today, I want to share how social connection directly affects memory, attention, learning, and even the way we perceive reality. We are going to talk about what happens inside the brain on a neurochemical level, how this applies to sport and daily life, and as always, I will leave you with practical tools you can apply to yourself or your athletes if you're a trainer. I'm Fabian Guida, and today's topic is the social power of the brain. Not long ago, a study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Science revealed something fascinating. A group of researchers from National University of Singapore, together with Fudan University of China, discovered that frequent contact with other people activate a specific neural circuit in hippocampus, the brain area responsible for forming memories. Inside the hippocampus, there is a small region called CA2, and what these researchers found is impressive. Every time we interact socially, the CA2 regions become intensely active and acts as a trigger that helps transform a momentary experience into a lasting memory. In other words, the brain needs other in order to remember better. Memory, to a large extent, is a social phenomenon. And this finding changed a lot because for decades it was true that memory depends almost exclusive or individual factors like attention, repetition, or emotion. But now we know that it also depends on the human context. Social interaction creates an ideal chemical environment for neurons to communicate, strengthen, and form new connections. Now, what exactly happens inside the brain when we spend time with others? That's a good question. In a moment of connection, a conversation, a laugh, a hug, or even a group sport practice, the brain releases a combination of neurochemical substances that work like a neuronal fertilizers. For example, the brain release oxytocin. Oxytocin decreases cortisol, the stress hormone, and activates the parasympathetic system, creating calm and receptivity. It also releases dopamine when something feels rewarding or meaningful. Dopamine reinforces learning circuits, making the experience as important. Another substance that the brain releases is serotonin, which regulates mood and improves emotional stability. And we also have BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which stimulates neuroplasticity, helping new synapses form and strengthening existing connections. Wow, this is very important. When these chemicals act together, the brain enters a state of maximum cognitive efficiency. We learn better, remember more, and feel emotionally balanced. That is why people with active social lives tend to show better memory, less risk of depression, and a slower cognitive decline as they age. In sport, especially in technical demanding ones like gymnastics, vaulting, or skating, social connection also plays a key role. It's not just about training the body, it's about training the nervous system. And the nervous system learns much better when it's emotionally connected. When an athlete feels supported, a companion, and part of a cooperative environment, the brain releases more dopamine and oxytocin. This facilitates motor learning and reduces cortical inhibition, which often blocks movements under pressure. That is why group training or teams with good cohesion not only performs better, they also have a fewer injuries and less burnout. An isolated athlete or one under constant stress releases too much cortisol, which in the long terms interferes with motor memory consolidation and cause more technical mistakes. One on the other hand, a socially neutral environment stimulates neuroplasticity and efficient learning. And there is something else. Human connection protects us from the fear of making mistakes. When the environment doesn't judge you, the brain feels free to explore and try, and that is essential for developing new skills. But this is not only about athletes, it's also tell us how all of our minds work. We live in a time that is hyperconnected technologically, yet increasingly disconnected emotionally. We spend hours in front of screens, but with little real human presence, and the brain feels that. Prolonged social isolation reduces activity in the hippocampus and dopaminergic system. This can translate into, for example, less concentration capacity or lack of motivation, difficulty to remember things, and an increase in a chronic stress. There are even studies showing that loneliness produces brain effects similar to physical pain. Can you imagine that? Activating the same areas that light up when we suffer an injury. Wow, wow, we need company. That is why many people going through periods of isolation end up feeling a kind of mental fog, loss of clarity, or emotional fatigue without an obvious physical cause. What is really happening is the brain is asking for human contact, something essential. Let's now shed some light on social connection as neurological therapy. Social interaction is a natural form of brain stimulation. We could even say that talking with someone is a kind of cognitive training, and we wouldn't be exaggerating. When we talk, the brain simultaneously activates multiple networks. The limbic system, which governs the emotion, the prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and decision making, and the hippocampus for memory and learning. This cross activation keeps the brain flexible and young. That is why, according to some studies, a person who regularly converses, debates, teach, or share ideas reduce their risk of cognitive decline by up to 30%. Yes, you listen good. Up to 30%. And here is something very interesting. Memory isn't stored in solitude, it's stored in company. Shared experience create richer and longer lasting memories because they involve more emotions and more neural pathways. That is, multiple brain areas forming circuits. Now, and is already a custom on this channel, I would like to leave you with some practical tools to strengthen your social brain. Okay, 1. Incorporate weekly social rituals. They can be group workouts, dinner with friends, or family gatherings. And the format doesn't matter at all. What matters is regularity. Repetition of bonds reinforces reward circuits and consolidates memory. 2. Train in a team wherever you can. Okay? In a sport, cooperation and communication active social neural networks and improves focus and decision making under pressure. 3. Practice active listening. Listening attentively stimulates the temporal lobe and strengthens prefrontal connections. It also generates empathy, which releases oxytocin and serotonin. 4. That would be a good one, this 4, okay? Pay attention. 4. Reduce passive screen time. In fact, the brain doesn't emotionally distinguish a WhatsApp chat from a real conversation. Digital interaction doesn't activate the same neural mechanism as face-to-face connection. I'm sad to say, but it's not the same talking with someone on the phone that meet someone to a coffee and have a good conversation. Okay? Number 5, combine physical exercise with socialization. Combining movement and social bonding is one of the most powerful ways to stimulate the brain. For example, group training, group goals, partner training, or recreational activities. This is something to think about, isn't it? In the end, if we go back for our origins, our brain wasn't designed to live in isolation. It evolves in trips, in community. And every time we share a real human experience, a talk, a gesture, a laugh, we are literally regenerating the brain. Social connection doesn't just make us feel good. It's a fact that it makes us function better neurologically. And in a world where performance is measured by results and productivity, maybe the key to thinking more clearly, remember more, and living better lies in something so simple and so human as reconnecting with others. Well, what fascinating topic that we shared today. And this is something amazing discovering also for me when I was preparing the podcast and making the research. I was fascinated with how our social connection make our brain more efficient. If you enjoyed this episode, share with someone who inspires you, someone who you always have a great conversation. I'm Fabian Guida, and this was Neuromotion Lab Podcast. And remember, in the end, every conversation not only change your day, it also change your brain. See you in the next episode. Bye.